Hey everyone, you're listening to Fantasy Uptick. I'm Jeremiah Blue, and today I wanted to talk about some basketball. Basically, since it's been back, I've done nothing but watch basketball, so I just wanted to go over 10 things that I've kind of taken away from what I've seen so far. With that, let's jump right in. First thing I want to talk about, obviously, is TJ Warren is just on an absolute tear. But he's doing it by shooting a bunch of threes, and we should have maybe saw this coming a little bit because he is an over 400% three-point shooter. So he's been just on fire since he's been in the playoffs. I don't necessarily expect that to continue, but I do think that he's basically solidified himself as more than just a role player on the Pacers. Now, they're without Sabonis, what might be this whole entire playoff run. What I was really thinking about the Pacers is essentially for them to really take that next step, it's probably going to be next year, because if they don't have Sabonis this year, they don't have a completely healthy Victor Oladipo this year, but they have all the pieces in place to actually be an elite basketball team. So I'm really excited for them going forward. Like I said, this year they're probably going to be eliminated in the first round based off of who they're going to end up playing in that first round, whether it be the 76ers or the Heat or the Boston Celtics or even possibly the Toronto Raptors, which, again, I think that's probably going to end up being Boston, or the Heat. Now, the reason I say that is because they got Brogdon, who's an elite. I mean, he's that upper tier elite point guard. They really look to me like the old school like Pistons. They're just going to be five deep, really good. What they really need and what to watch for if you're a Pacers fan going forward is to see the real development of Miles Turner, because Miles Turner is really the one weak spot on that roster, especially if he's going to be playing the five next to Sabonis, because he's either gonna have to develop or they're gonna have to move him, because he just got embarrassed versus Joel Embiid, and he's got the talent, the ability. I just don't know what he's doing defensively. It was like he kept giving up the baseline, which that's the number one rule if you're playing up against a big like Embiid, is to make sure that you don't give baseline, because baseline you don't have any help. Whereas if you make him come to the inside or back towards the court, you can get help on that side. Right now I'm actually watching the Miami Heat versus Milwaukee Bucks game. That's why I wanted to kind of talk about this stuff. Giannis just had 3 fouls, and now I'm bored because I'm not getting to watch Giannis, which is what I've been tuning in for. But anyways, so again, Miles Turner, that's the real development that needs to happen there for the Pacers. Number two thing I saw was Toronto has just been on a tear, but I don't know how much I buy that. Like, if people are buying into Toronto is a contender for a championship, obviously they won a championship last year, but they had Kawhi on their roster, and I just don't think they match up well against Boston. They play Boston on Friday, so I'm tuning in to watch and see what comes of that. But Boston is one of those teams they don't match up well with. And then on Monday they play Giannis and the Bucks. And again, that's one that I don't actually think they match up well with either, right? So those are two things that I'm kind of looking forward to. Now, again, Toronto did look good. They're kind of on fire from three, and I think that's been the real difference with all these rosters. So if we go to the next roster, which is the Lakers, that's been their biggest issue, is that they don't seem to have the three-point shooting threats anymore. So I think they're going to live and die with the three. I just have a feeling LeBron's going to find a way to win. This is a good roster. You got Anthony Davis there. I've seen him with the odds stacked more than they are this year with the Lakers. So I have faith in LeBron and finding a way, but my eyes are telling me that the Lakers have a lot of holes. They need a lot of help. Those threes need to come. Their three-point shooting is way low, but it's below their average for the season. So again, I think this might be something that's going to come on hot and cold. And I think in a 7-game series with basically any team, as long as those threes are landing, this is a good defensive team. And I think that Anthony Davis is the real mismatch once you get to the more talented teams in the West, like the Clippers. Anthony Davis is a real mismatch for the Clippers. So again, I'm still sticking with my original preseason pick, which was the Lakers, but they definitely need to work on some stuff. They really need to work on their three-point shooting. Tonight, LeBron's sitting. I think that might give them an opportunity to really let some of the other guys kind of step into that role and play it. Now, Houston is another team that's getting a lot of hype because of the way they're playing, the side they're playing. What I don't like about Houston is that in a 7-game series, it's all about next game adjustments. Houston can't really adjust. They have a way of playing, and other teams are going to adjust to them. So we haven't seen this in a series. So I really want to see what Houston does once they get to the playoffs in a series, because I don't think this small ball is going to work once teams get a chance to adjust and try different things. And in a 7-game series, they're going to find something that works against Houston, and Houston's not going to have the pieces to adjust to whatever style they're playing. When they played the Bucks, like they beat the Bucks, right? I really thought that they could have just benched Lopez and had Giannis playing the 5, but they never tried that. In a 7-game series, not that they're going to run into the Bucks in a 7-game series, but in a 7-game series, they would turn to that as an option. It's going to be the same thing with every single team that they play with. They're just going to have to play a little smaller ball and have a big. Like Anthony Davis is going to be a tough team for Houston to beat, because Anthony Davis can play small ball and he's an actual big. So I just want to kind of see how this plays out. But again, I'm not buying the Houston hype of how they're a real contender this year, because again, they can't adjust in series, and I think that that's a big disadvantage for a team like that. Now, the other one, the team that I'm really enjoying watching is the Suns. Now, I don't think they're going to do anything this year, but I think getting to the bubble, and a lot of people were saying that the Suns didn't belong in the bubble, and that's probably true, but they're going to get so much experience from this whole situation. And right now, last I checked, they're playing the Pacers, and they were winning. So they could actually it's actually, with the way Memphis is falling, and I was going to talk about Memphis next. They just lost Jarrett Jack Jr., which is okay. So Memphis is my 6th team. They just lost Jarrett Jack Jr. Their next 4 games are against Oklahoma, Toronto, Boston, Milwaukee. They could lose all of those games. This could be a Portland versus one of the other teams, whether it be the Spurs, because the Spurs got a relatively winnable schedule, or what I think it might end up being is Portland Suns in a playing game. I don't think they end up beating Portland, especially back-to-back, and I think Portland's going to end up having the better record going in. So I think that at the end of the day, that would be a fun little series to go, and this is going to build experience for the Suns. I do end up thinking Portland is going to end up advancing. What I initially thought was that the New Orleans Pelicans were going to advance to that 9 seed, do a playing game with Memphis, and sweep Memphis to play the Lakers. That was one of my bold predictions coming into the bracket. But there's 2 things. I way underestimated the just loser mentality of the New Orleans Pelicans. And I mean that. Like, I was frustrated on Twitter just based on the fact that why are you putting a limit restriction on Zion when these games actually matter? They don't have that killer instinct. I think it's because the organization knows they're not going to win a championship, but I think at that level you can't have that mentality. You have to have the mentality that you can win and upset everyone. This is a professional NBA league. You can't tell me Drew Holiday, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Zion don't think that if they played the Lakers, they can beat them in a 7-game series. They're professional athletes. They're supposed to believe in themselves. This is why I think New Orleans it's got that loser mentality. So I'm done with New Orleans. They're not going to make it, even though now they're letting Zion play a little bit more. They threw away a game versus Utah, a critical game they needed, just because they wanted to manage Zion's minutes, right? Portland, on the other hand, I did not expect Nurkic to come back and just be the same, not miss a beat. He's the same Nurkic that we remember. So Portland is serious danger to the Lakers because they match up well with the Lakers. They got bigs to match, probably better bigs than the Lakers, and they have Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum. That combo is better than LeBron by himself. So again, that's a serious matchup, and it looks like Portland's probably going to end up making it at the 8th seed. Memphis is not out yet. Memphis has still got a lead, and if they maintain that, they still get 2 games versus Portland. But I think Portland's going to end up passing them. And if anything, Memphis is going to end up being the 9 and have to beat Portland back-to-back, which I just don't think is going to happen. They lost some big games early. It's just a complete collapse for Memphis, and the fact that they lost Jarrett Jack Jr., that doesn't help either. And then we go to Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a team that there's nothing I feel better about than Milwaukee is going to the championship. That being said, they need to kind of get their shit together because they look like, I think they need to play all the way through. They're going to end up playing the Nets or Orlando, but it's probably going to end up being the Nets. And if they play the Nets in the first round of the playoffs, they're going to sweep the Nets, which means they're not going to get any games they're probably going to sit everybody in the last game. They're going to sweep the Nets, and then everybody else is still going to be running. I think the Philly versus Heat series could be big, even though I think Simmons is probably out for a while, and if he does come back, he's coming back towards the end of that series. But it looks like right now that he's out. And speaking of Philly, like honestly, they need to figure something out, because I've been saying all year that they need to put, basically since Simmons has been there, that they need to put Simmons at the 4, Embiid at the 5, and then work around with shooters at that point. Offensively, you can still run a point forward situation. Defensively, you get better defenders on the court by putting Simmons at the 4, and now you can basically do 4 wings and a big, or you could have a point guard that can actually knock down threes that allows Simmons to kind of run that point forward and have a 4 guarding Simmons. Again, there's so many different advantages by having Simmons at the 4, but they had Simmons at the 4 and they still looked a little bit lost. I just don't know if it's ever going to work with Simmons and Embiid. Philly needs to do something. I think, with how dominant Embiid is, I've always said they should keep Simmons and move Embiid because of the way the NBA is going, but Simmons is the guy that's not evolving. Simmons is the guy that's not learning to shoot threes. Simmons is the guy that's not proving his free throws. I think he might need a change of scenery, a change of coaching staff. And honestly, they could change the coaching staff in Philly, which is probably what they're going to end up doing just to give it another shot. But they need to do something there. Simmons has still got value. Embiid's got value. They can put pieces around them. Both of them are all-stars, and they need to be separated, is basically what I'm saying. The process is not over. The process means that they need to continue to trade their assets and go get better players or that fit into that roster. But Milwaukee, again, they're going to end up playing either the Heat or 76ers, I would imagine, in the second round. But I think it's the Heat now that I've seen what the 76ers are and I've seen what the Heat are doing. And the Heat is a tough matchup. And if they're rusty for that game and they're not in sync, because when we left the regular season before we hit the bubble, Milwaukee was in sync. That was one of the best things. So I think they need to end up playing. I don't think they should sit anybody towards the end. I think they need to play their guys out and just try to get back in that mode, because there is going to be a long break before they get some real competition, which would be the Heat, and I think in the second round, right? And then Denver, Michael Porter Jr. So this is why I was excited about Denver. Now, they still don't even have their full roster healthy. Murray still hasn't played. Harris hasn't played, I don't believe. And then Michael Porter Jr. has finally got to that role, and I think he's like their secret weapon. So this is why I think the Denver series, assuming Denver advances and the Clippers advance, I think that series could be really good, because I think Michael Porter Jr. really opens up that series he's a wild card, essentially, because he put up over 30 points. He's a rebound machine, and then you got Jokic there. That's just a hard combo. That's a twin towers that can kind of stretch the court a little bit and can do a little bit of everything, like pass the ball. The ball doesn't just they're not like Embiid necessarily or like Anthony Davis, where it's kind of like ISO basketball. They can actually rotate the rock and play that team basketball and be big. That's basically what everybody always talks about, the Twin Towers, and they talk about Duncan and Robinson. What people don't remember was that they played a team basketball game. There wasn't ISO. So the Twin Tower situation doesn't work when you got ISO players. It only works when you got guys that are passing the ball around, and I think the Denver has that. I think they're a real sleeper for me this year. I think that they're a tough matchup for anyone all the way through the playoffs. And again, I think Milwaukee for me, I just don't think Boston matches up well against Milwaukee, and I don't think that the Toronto Raptors match up well against Milwaukee. The only team that actually matches up well against Milwaukee is the Heat, and they'll catch them at the right time. I just don't think that they're a complete enough team to compete with Milwaukee in a 7-game series, because really they got, they have a 3-point shooter in Robinson. They have Jimmy Butler, so they got their one superstar, and then they got Bam Adebayo, who's like the Giannis stopper. I don't think that would be enough for a 7-game series, because Milwaukee's deep, and once they're in sync, they're a good defensive team, they're a good 3-point shooting team, and then obviously they got the best player in the East in Giannis. So that's my breakdown of what I've seen so far. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you like the content, remember to like and subscribe. Until next time, see ya!